All right. Welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, I want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. Question came in earlier. Interesting question. We'll see where it goes. And the question was, person's married, wife has certain understanding of, I don't know, some Torah text, something she heard, whatever, has this love for learning Torah, wants to give it over to her husband, and her husband says that, well, it's very nice, but, you're not a rabbi, i.e., why should I listen to you? That's not maybe what they said, right? But if you're not a rabbi, if I'm interested, I'll go ask, a rabbi the question. So the wife gives an explanation, whatever some Torah thought. Now this could be anybody. It doesn't necessarily have to be, a wife and a husband, but it could be any, let's say any give and take. Someone's giving over something, to someone else, and whatever, they give it over Torah thought. Now, unless they say something, I would say that is so egregious that, is off the charts, is really backwards, heretical. I mean, whatever adjective you want to put towards it. The other person says, well, that really sounds kind of strange. I want to get a second opinion. Now that I can understand. That's what learning is. You have give and take. When you learn with somebody, in general, you learn with a study partner. That's what give and take is. In other words, you go through the text, explain it your way, or try to explain it your way. Someone else says, no, that can't be the explanation. This has to be the explanation. And you go back and forth. And unless you get to a stalemate where one's not going to agree with the other, then you have to get another opinion, right? Dad, you would have to get another opinion. And that's what learning is. A person can't think, well, I know everything. My way of thinking is always right. That's why it's important to learn with somebody else in general, because you have your own biases. You think a certain way. Who says everyone thinks the way you do? Right? I probably say nobody thinks the way you do. So therefore, you're bouncing off someone else. You bounce it off someone else, in order to see if what you're saying is really true. Now, if you're interested, both parties are interested in getting to the truth. Now, it could be a heated discussion. That's not a contradiction. There can definitely be a heated discussion because we want to get to the truth. Not just, I want to put someone else down. I want to knock them down to hear my opinion. Or, who says I have to listen to you anyway? I have my own opinion. And if I don't have my own opinion, I'll get one. I'll find someone online, get a rabbi's opinion. I don't need your opinion. Now, it sounds a little bit degrading because that means you don't want to listen to anyone else. That's what it sounds like. But that's what learning is. Learning is give and take. Give and take to get to the truth. Now, ego sometimes gets in the way. And a person has to leave their ego, at the door. You go to learn, it's not about ego. It's not about always being right, even if you think you're right. Because you have to hear the other side. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe what you're saying is really not true. And isn't the most important thing getting to the truth? Understanding, what's going on? Right? So I would say one of the more difficult things for a person to say in this generation, maybe any generation, is, you know what, you're right, I'm wrong. People don't like to admit they're wrong. Not only don't they like to admit they're wrong, but if they say something far out, that's really, I guess my language, off the rails, so to speak. They don't want to hear, they don't want to hear, come on, like, you really think that's true? You really see that in the text? Like, again, there has to be respect. There has to be respect unless it's heresy. If it's heresy, and it's heresy, yeah, then anything goes. Then you can say whatever needs to be said. And there's no problem with Lashon Hara over here. Right? Let's not make the mistake. Someone says something heretical. You can put them in their place even if they're not going to listen. And it's not, and it's certainly not Lashon Hara because, it's an absolute disgrace. Which really gets into another topic, which something actually that it was good to speak about within this context. And that is what happens, and I guarantee this happens a lot. What happens? Somebody hears something, or not even hears something, but somebody wants them to praise something that they're doing. They want them to give a good word. For instance, someone's getting married. Right? Someone's getting married. Say, oh, Mazel Tov. Beautiful. Well, what's the problem? What's the problem? Either the Jewish person is into marrying a non-Jew, or let's say you have two members of the same sex getting married. Now, in either case, a Jew or a non-Jew, not allowed to go to the wedding. Not allowed to give any credibility whatsoever. Especially if a person is an Orthodox Jew. How can you go to an intermarriage? Right? And someone I went to yeshiva with went to his sister's wedding, mentioned this story before, and the sister intermarried, married a non-Jew. So I said, how could you go to the wedding? He says, no, don't worry. Everybody knew I was there under protest. So I said, oh, so you're on the dance floor doing the horror under protest. You're eating your kosher food under protest. So you got to say, but how could I go? How could I not go? Break up the family. A lot of pressure. I get it. I definitely understand. That's not the question. The question is, am I allowed to go? How could you give that any credibility? A person liable for a death penalty. So what do you say? Okay, I'm here for the murder. Here I am. I'm, ready to show up. That's what it's like. Problem is, we live in a very, very upside down world. Right? And, you have to be politically correct. Well, the last time I checked, God is not politically correct. There are correct things. There are incorrect things. The right way is the wrong way. So how can a person say congratulations? Not allowed to. Right? It comes under the category of flattery over here. Flattery. It's false flattery. Right? So that you're not allowed to do. So something like that, you wouldn't be allowed to go. All right, family's going to jump up and down, yell and scream, this and that. You're going to break up the family. You're going to fry it out forever, this. Okay, sticks and stones. Doesn't matter. It's not a good position to be in. But you know what? You got to do what you got to do. Right? So you can't congratulate a person like that. The non-Jew, you could. Right? If it's a in theory. Right? Non-Jew marries a Jew. They didn't do anything wrong. I mean, it'd be forbidden because then it's like you're saying that what the Jew is doing is okay also. That'd be more problematic. But in theory, there's nothing wrong with what the non-Jew is doing. But if we believe in Torah mitzvahs, as a Jew or a non-Jew, right? Or a JIT, a Jew in training, or a Noahide, whatever you want to call them, then how can you say that's a good thing? How can you say desecration of Judaism is a good thing? You can't. They're going to say they're going to get offended. Okay? Who would you rather offend? A family member or God himself? And the punishment will be 10 times worse. What could God say? Now, if I was playing God, I got my nice, funny glasses, my George Burns mustache and all that. Right? If I were playing God, what would I say? I'd say very simple. I'd say, are you off your cotton picking head? How in the world can you go? That's what I would say. Don't you know my book says you're not allowed to marry non-Jew. Jews not allowed to marry non-Jew. How can you say mazel tov? How can you say congratulations? Not allowed to. And it'd be a same-sex marriage. Jews or non-Jews. It's a co-worker, maybe even your boss. Not allowed to say. Not allowed to say congratulations. First, you can't go for sure. It's another issue. For sure you can't go, and how can you say congratulations? You got to say something generic. Something that's, they'll get the point. You don't have to be obnoxious. But you certainly can't say something to the effect that you're showing any credibility to this thing at all. Now, I don't think it's going to cost someone their job, but, it has nothing to do with being politically correct. Now, if someone's going to ask you, what do you think about this? You have to say it's wrong. Can't beat around the bush. You got to say it's wrong. Can't give any credence to it. None. Totally wrong. God says it's wrong. Not a popular stance to take. But what are we in this world for? Are we in this world to take a popular stand? Or are we in this world, I'll get back to the original question, to try and give over God's Torah the best we can, or to learn it the best we can? That's what we're here for. We're here to toil. We're here to strive. We're here to reach potential. Whatever that potential may be. That's what we're here for. We're not here, to pat someone on the back and boost their ego. Imagine someone says, wow, I'm so happy. I'm so happy this Orthodox Jew came to my wedding. They finally must have seen the lights. They finally got the message. It's the wrong attitude. Obviously. They'll hate you more. They'll hate Judaism more. That's not your problem. You don't have to worry about that. God can take care of himself. God doesn't need to be defended, even though some people think he does. Which I mentioned many times. I know some people, they see some blasphemy, this, that. Their job to answer for God on social media. I think God can do well himself. Most times it's going to be a waste of time anyway. It's going to be Lashon Hara, all these other things. Thanks, the desecration of God's name. But who says you have to fight it? Who says you have to fight that war? There might be times you might have to say something. I'd say, go sit and learn. Don't waste your time with this. So now, in general, when there's ever give and take in learning, and a person gives over their explanation, either things they heard, things they understand, whatever it is. Why are they giving over this explanation and not listening to your explanation? Now, it could be they're not listening. Why? Because they want to hear themselves talk. They have their own idea. They're not interested in what you have to say. Oh, you're going against what I said. So what could a person do? They'll put the other person down. They'll knock down their idea for one very simple reason, because they want their idea to be right. But their idea may not be right. So if there's if they're in an impasse, one thinks they're right, the other one thinks they're right. So then you got to get another opinion. Then you got to get a third opinion, and see. That's okay, because you're not sure. But to come along and say, well, that's very nice, very nice Torah idea. If I want your opinion, I'll ask for it. That's what it sounds like. Right? In other words, it's like saying, I want to hear myself think. I want to hear myself talk. Whatever you say doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. If I want a godly opinion, I'll get it. Someone told me a while ago, I mentioned something, and the secular Jew says, all right, get off your soapbox. Like, I don't want to listen. I'm changing the conversation. I'm not interested. Okay. Right? Understood why you wouldn't be interested. They're not saying, well, I want to hear my own opinion. This is even worse. See, there's no argument over it. There's no discussion. Because they're not saying, well, this person once said, or said a number of times, well, we can agree to disagree. But you're not giving me your opinion. You're just saying, well, I disagree. They don't want to debate. I understand why. Perfectly understand why. But in the end, they'll say, well, I have my opinion and that's it. Okay. But what does that tell you? What does that tell you when they say, well, we can agree to disagree? They're not interested in what you have to say. They're not interested in your opinion. In this case, it was a put down. Not that, bothered me so much. Right? But it's a put down. I don't have to listen to you. Why do I have to listen to you? You don't. You really don't. I understand you're not interested. See, but they're not saying anything either. That's the difference. They're not having a dialogue. They don't want to have a dialogue on this. They're speaking about other things. Why? Because if they get in a discussion, what's going to happen? Maybe, just maybe what I say may make sense. And then they may feel guilty. And then, who knows? But, if there's give and take, and someone gives over something to someone else, where's the Torah? Now again, unless it's heresy, which I'm pretty sure in this case it wouldn't be, but unless it's something heretical, then I can understand, well, that doesn't sound right. Let me get a rabbinical opinion on this. That I can hear. But if it's just, well, I don't want to hear your opinion, and if I want spirituality, I'll get it from God, or I'll go ask a rabbi, right? Because, one thing thinking about this, which I've heard a lot of people say, and that is, well, let somebody, they kept listening to my classes but couldn't stand them. Different things I said against Karaites, whatever, other things, just got them like really, really angry, which I guess I'm very good at. And, a number of times I asked them point blank questions that I knew they couldn't answer because a Karaite doesn't believe in oral law, right? So I gave him a checkmate question. My famous checkmate question: Ruth is a Moabite. The Torah says Moabites cannot convert. If Moabites cannot convert, the Torah says we have no King David. King David isn't Jewish. The future Messiah, according to the Jews and the Christians, comes from the Davidic line. If he's not Jewish, we're in trouble over here. So my question was, if a Moabite cannot convert, then how do we have a future Messiah? So I said, give me an answer according to the Torah, according to the prophets, according to the writings. Show me something that explains how that can be. I said, I know what the answer is. The reason I know what the answer is because I know what oral law says. So I've come on to oral law because nothing else makes sense. So now, person came back a number of times saying, I'm going to pray on it. That's why I mentioned this. Anything they have difficulty with, I'm going to pray on it. Now, prayer is good. When we're stuck, there's a sword against our throat, who do we turn to? To God. Prayer is always good, but not in this context. Because in this context, what are they saying? Very Christian thing to say. What are they saying? They're telling you, or telling me, God's going to speak to me. God's going to give me the answer. Well, I highly doubt that. Now you say, well, how do you know? Maybe this person has prophecy, divine inspiration, the lowest form of prophecy, right? That's only by great rabbinical authorities. That even some people today have that. But they don't have prophecy. The Talmud says, who has prophecy today? Mentally challenged children, mentally challenged people, or imbeciles. Or little children. Now, do I really think someone's going to fast and God's going to come to them? Highly unlikely. They may think, they may put all their energy towards that. That doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. So I can tell you, I've heard this a lot, many, many times. I'm going to pray on it. I'm going to fast. I'm going to do these other things. And eventually, I kept coming back with the same thing. Give me an answer. You say you don't hold by the rabbi, just give me an answer. Or tell me that I pick and choose what the rabbi says. If you tell me that, then I'll cut you some slack. Because at least you admit you're honest. And you admit you pick and choose. So after a long while, and months, after a very long while, they came back and said, okay, I admit it, I pick and choose. Okay? Checkmate. No other questions on that. But see, if someone comes and says, they tell over a Torah thought. They tell over a Torah thought to their friend. And they have a discussion. And maybe the friend has a nuance, or maybe they heard it differently. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe they think it's totally, it's totally wrong. And they'll bring proofs why it's totally wrong. So that's give and take. There's a healthy give and take, there's an unhealthy give and take. The healthy give and take is, wow, that's so interesting. Never heard that before, but I heard other things. Maybe it doesn't sound exactly the way, you said it. Because maybe, I have a contradiction over here or something. But if a person doesn't really want to hear what they have to say, I think that's what they're saying over here. Right? That's what it sounds like. That's exactly what it sounds like. Oh, what do you know? If I wanted godly guidance, I'll go ask a rabbi. I can tell you in the secular world. I've heard this a number of times. People totally disrespected me. Now you're going to say, how could that be? How would anyone disrespect you? Very easy. Either I hit a raw nerve, or they just want to put me down to make themselves look better. I had a relative. Didn't know anything about Judaism, but big talker. One of his claims was you can never make mayonnaise as parv. Parv. It's not milk or meat. Because all mayonnaise has milk in it. That was the claim. So I said, well, I don't know where you got your information from, but I can tell you this mayonnaise is parv. I said, this mayonnaise, it does not have milk in it. And I can tell you, I haven't seen mayonnaise that has milk in it. Actually, most mayonnaise is parv. Person said, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. I keep kosher. I know what's out there. I am an Orthodox Jew. So I would think I know if mayonnaise is parv or not. It could be there is mayonnaise that's not. That's there. It could be. I don't think I've seen too many, if any. But I said, you know why it's not parv? Because there's no milk in it. The person copped an attitude. Hey, what do you know? I know I know mayonnaise has milk in it. You gonna argue with somebody like that? I didn't even bother. I gave an answer. I said milk is not in mayonnaise. It's part. Person disagreed. Knocked me down, said no such thing. Okay. Well, the second stupid thing the person said. Second stupid thing was, how do I know I'm not a Cohen? I said, because your father would have told you. But what if you didn't know? It's something that's known in the Jewish world. Parents know if they're Kohanim or not. Right? Sorry. Families know if they're Kohanim or not. Or they're Levites. Right? Both come from the tribe of Levi. They know that. Not something that's not known. Could be it got lost, maybe. But the vast majority of the Jewish people are not Levites or Kohanim. So the person, I told him, it's something that's passed down. Something families know. So he said, but are there any papers? Like, are there any Kohanim papers? So I said, there are some Kohanim that may have these papers to show their pedigree. Most people don't. Some do, but most people don't. Almost vast majority don't. So the person said, what am I going to listen to you for? Again, another put down. What am I going to listen to you for? I want to go ask a rabbi this question. I said, okay, go ask him. I'm just trying to save you from embarrassment. Two things came up in the same conversation. Now, if you would ask anybody in the Orthodox world, when I tell that story to some people, I've told these stories to a number of people with knowledge, not a little bit of knowledge, not just like a drop of knowledge. People know what's going on. People have learned for many years. You tell that story, what's the first thing they do? You want to know what the first thing they do is? They burst out laughing. That's what they do, because the person sounds like a moron, which they were when it comes to Judaism. An absolute moron. Caught up in 615th commandment. Don't be a moron. Someone says, there's no such thing as mayonnaise. It's not part. Just laugh in their face. That's stupid. Doesn't make any sense at all. They're just there to put me down. So I did my best not to laugh in their face. I mean, it was a relative, an older relative. I mean, no longer in this world, but a joke. I tell those two stories to almost anybody. They'll laugh. If they have any knowledge at all, they're going to laugh their head off hearing such a thing. I can't even say it's good Torah for Purim. It's just stupid. That's what it is. So somebody who says something like that, what's their goal? Their goal is to knock you down. That's their goal. Their goal is to knock you down. So if there's a give and take, and the person says, why do I need to listen to you? If I wanted a rabbinical opinion, I'll get one. That doesn't sound so nice. It doesn't sound like they're interested in what you have to say. Maybe on other things, maybe. But sometimes, just try and get in somebody's head. Sometimes people don't want to hear what other people have to say. They don't want to hear it. Even if you're right. Say, wow, it's such an interesting thing. Never thought of that. What a novel idea. No, you're putting them down. That's what you're doing. In the secular world, this happens all the time. They don't want to hear something. They say, yeah, if I want your opinion, I'll ask for it. I mean, someone can be obnoxious and say that. I've heard a lot of these things. So I don't give my opinion. If somebody wants it, I'll give it. If they don't want it. Someone told me the other day, very funny story. Also a funny story. At least funny, ironic. A Jewish man married to a non-Jewish woman. So they have non-Jewish kids. So one of their kids marries another non-Jew. Okay, two non-Jews getting married. So they had a ceremony. So I asked the question. I think I mentioned this before. Maybe I mentioned it last week. Right? I asked the following question. I was curious. I said, so who did the ceremony? So one of the kids got married. Ceremony was done by a friend who became a minister online. See, you can't convert online, but you can be a minister online. Now, technically, there are places where you get rabbinic ordination online. That's not a contradiction, right? I guess a similar thing. You want to be a minister online, get rabbinic ordination online. You can do it. I'm not going to say it doesn't have any validity, but one person got married by, I don't know, like a justice of the peace online, and this person also got married by like a justice of the peace that they did their thing online. I guess save money. I don't know, whatever it is. So, I said, oh, interesting. So the other person turns around, this Jew, and he says, whatever. I didn't want to burst out laughing, right? He says, well, they didn't want to mention God at all. Okay. So what? That's what I said. Okay. They don't want to mention God. Very good. They don't have to. Because if they're non-Jews, if they live together, they're married. As the Rambam says. Common law marriage. They're already living together anyway. So what's the difference? So now you got a piece of paper. Do you need the piece of paper? No. Do you need to go to a justice of the peace? No. Do I need to make it legal for non-Jews? No. I don't need to make it legal at all. They choose to, that's their choice. But it's just ironic. They're saying they didn't want to mention God at all. Who says they have to? They're non-Jews. They don't want to hear that. But that's what I'm thinking. They're not Jews, so who cares? So let them not mention God. They need to mention God in the ceremony? Who says? That's part of the Noahide laws? I don't think so. But they want to make a joke. They want to get under my skin, right? They're going to say, they didn't mention God at all. Okay. That's the answer. What are you going to argue? No, they have to mention God. How come they don't think about God? There's no one home. There's no one to talk to. Waste of time. And most times when people make statements, which I mentioned before, and they have an agenda, the answer is, oh, that's the answer. I think Judaism discriminates against women. Oh, I don't have to answer that. No question. I think, Judaism is, anti-gay. Oh, no, there's an agenda there. I think you can hear the agenda. There's no question. I don't have to answer anything. Same thing over here. They didn't mention God. Okay. Could have said, oh, whatever. Either way. There's no question being asked over here. So I have to interject a question where no one's going to listen? No. It's a waste of time. So now, in the secular world, that can happen. Because people don't want to have these discussions. Because you might actually be right. They don't want to hear it. I get it. They're not telling you, they're not proving you anything, but they don't want to listen. Fine. But if you're having a discussion, especially with the spouse, you tell over a Torah thought, they're not interested, well, there's something wrong. If that's the way it went down, then yeah, there's something wrong. Like, if I want to listen to spirituality, I'll call a rabbi. That's a little bit below the belt. If I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. That's what it sounds like. I'm just pointing out two people learning. And there's give and take. It's a whole different story. If it's give and take, you want to hear what the other person has to say. They're not just putting you down to see what, just to make themselves heard. That's a different issue. But if there's a proper give and take, and you want to get to the facts, you want to know if it's true, it's not true, makes sense, doesn't make sense, that's what Torah is. That's what the Gemara is. Give and take, back and forth. Oh, you said like this, come on, I got a contradiction. Like this, that, and the other thing. Why weren't it out from this verse? I got another verse. Why say like this? I got another source. That's what Torah is. Right? Proving, disproving. But they're arguing at each other. They're talking to each other. If a person's not talking to the other person, then the other person's not there. Then you're not talking to anybody. You're talking at each other, not to each other. That's a major difference. Right? One yeshiva I was in, people, someone would give an answer, and then 20 people would jump on them like a hot potato. So what happened? The person doesn't want to give an answer unless they know they're 100% right. Because they're not 100% right, they're going to get carved up. Not carved up because we're interested in truth. That wasn't it. Being carved up because I can show you up. Because I can show you're not wrong. Sorry, I can show you're not right. That's called upmanship. That's not called Torah. That's showing off like they do in sports. There's no place in Torah. And that can destroy a person's self-esteem also. I forget who the name of it was, but there was a great rabbi, someone, he'd ask a question, or, he'd ask a question, and someone answered, and they were way off target. Way off target. It's way off target, but the Rebbe didn't say, come on, you really think that's the explanation? He could have put him down, which would have been wrong. He said, come on, think a little bit better. Think a little bit stronger. But this Rebbe didn't do that. Thank God. What did he do? He said, oh, you must have meant this and this. And then from this and this, you must have meant like that. Now, the person was way off track. But what did this rabbi do? Made him feel like $1 million, even though it's not what he said. Wasn't even close. But he made him think like it was his own answer. That's how you build people. It's very easy to knock someone down. Very, very easy. It's a lot more difficult to build someone up. To give them credibility, to give them a pat on the back, to say, it's an interesting idea. Didn't think of it that way. You can say you're not on the right track. You're going in the wrong direction. Think a little bit more. You can do it without putting a person down, destroying them. But when a person says, come on, you really think that's true? You really believe in that? So why do people do it? Why do people speak Lashon Hara? When a person speaks Lashon Hara, what do they have in their hand? Nothing. Person beats up granny, steals a purse. They have something in their hand, maybe. Credit card, money, whatever. Person speaks Lashon Hara against someone else. What do they have in their hand? Nothing. They put someone down to make themselves look better. Right? So in the secular world, right, by secular Jews, what do they say? Oh, come on, you really believe this? You really think the world 5,700 and however many years? You don't believe in evolution? Say, yeah, but I got great evidence. You want to hear it? No, you're a fanatic. What do they say? They call you names. They say other things. And they put you down to make you feel like, oh, what do you really know? They're not doing it because, it's to throw the argument. Let's make this person squirm. So where was God during the Holocaust? So, wow, it's a great book. It's called Hasidic Tales of the Holocaust. You want to read it? No, it's just a question I ask rabbis, makes them fidget. Oh, you're not really interested in an answer? I can watch there. I don't have my head grow. That's why I'm asking the question. Because they're difficult questions. And when you say, well, I don't really have an answer, and we don't really know, they see, you don't have answers. You don't have answers. So if you don't have answers, and Judaism doesn't have answers, so I can do what I want. I can believe what I want. I can think what I want. And if I would give you an answer, you say, no, I don't like that answer. And if I gave you another answer, say, no, I don't like that answer. You can keep saying that, but it doesn't mean anything. So there has to be give and take. Especially between a husband and wife. On anything. There has to be give and take. Person can disagree. You got to be respectful when you disagree. Men and women don't think the same. That's definitely true. And even when it comes to Torah, it doesn't mean a woman's not right. a girl going through the system, from a very young age, they're going to know Tanakh way better than guys. No question about it. They'll be able to upmanship on them, upwomanship, whatever you call it, on a guy like no tomorrow. Why? Because they studied a lot more in depth than guys do. When it comes to Talmud, okay, guy's going to beat a woman, hands down. They don't learn Gemara in general. So, so if a woman gives an explanation, on Tanakh or whatever, and she's learned it in depth, unless, you have a source to say, well, that might not be true. You got other ways of looking at it, whatever. And obviously the opinion has to be respected, should be respected, if what they're saying is true. If there's a doubt what they're saying, okay, there's a respectful way to say, I don't think that's true. You can have a discussion. This doesn't sound like a discussion. This sounds like I'm right, you're wrong. And even if you're right, I want to hear from someone else. That does not, bode well. In general. So, there has to be respect. You can respectfully disagree, but there's a give and take. Over here, it doesn't sound like there's a give and take. It just sounds like, there's a give and no one's listening. That's what it sounds like. Someone mentions that talking about shamans or shamans, whatever you call them, respect to Kabbalah, other Eastern things trying to fit into Judaism. When they say anything against it, they tell me there are layers of depth to the Torah and teachings. Not everything's in the Torah. Right? I remember, I know somebody that dabbled in Zen Buddhism for years. Many, many years. I don't know how much you can dabble in it, but okay. They were dabbling in Zen Buddhism for years. So I was happened at that time, I was reading a book by Rabbi Kiva Tatz, should be well. It's called Letters to a Buddhist Jew. Actually, sorry, it wasn't about that. It was either World Mask or Living Inspired. I think it was Living Inspired. And anyway, I showed him this book. It's one of these books, I don't remember now, but whatever. I showed him this book. And this person started reading it. And he said, see, I knew Zen Buddhism was right. Because it could be there was something similar, but it was really a Torah concept. It's just in Zen Buddhism, they used it. I don't know, whatever it is. Because there is a little bit of truth in that, in many things. There is truth, not the truth. Maybe drop of a truth, but there can be some truth in many things. That's not a contradiction. That's not the ultimate truth. So yeah, there are a lot of layers in Torah, but my question would be, why would you try and fit that into Torah? If it's really antithetical to Torah. Because I once had a question from a Ramban, the beginning of Genesis, sounded like before man was breathed in the soul of life, it seems like there could have been maybe some idea of evolution in the words, or the way I looked at the words. Anyway, so one of my rabbis told me, stop right there. They said, first of all, that's not what the Ramban means. Okay. But second of all, why would you try and prove something that really goes against Torah and try and show in the Torah why it's true? The valid point. If I know something not to be not true, and that we don't hold by, we'll make it easy. We don't hold by it, right? It's a false truth. Then why would I try and prove it? Why would I try and use the text and try and prove it? Now, what other people do is they try and use the text and prove things. That, that's a different issue. Right? And we're going to show why that's false and why their interpretation is false. But if you know something is false why would you want to try and prove through Torah that it's true? Right? Not to mention, what I said wasn't true anyway in the words. It didn't fit in the words. But that was the second comment. The second comment was, why would you prove something that's not true, that we don't believe? It's a good point. Very good point. Yeah, there are multiple layers to Torah. That's true. That's 100% true. But what does that have to do with trying to fit other religions we believe to be false? Right? All the Eastern religions we believe to be false. Why would I try and prove that? Right? Just like I have the secular Quranist, harassing me and saying, well, at the end of the day, since we're not working with Noahides the way we need to, and really, Islam is the closest thing to people keeping the Noahide laws because they believe in one God, which is debatable, but let's say the vast majority of rabbinical authorities hold they believe in one God. So they say, well, if the Jews aren't going to help non-Jews become Noahides, then you know what? Let them go to Islam light. Let them be Muslim, because they all by the Noahide laws. Well, I don't think that's true. I definitely don't think that's true, but there's another issue, a more important issue, and that is we don't believe Islam is true. There are a number of reasons why we don't believe it's true. A lot of there are mistakes. You can't make a mistake if it's a book of God. There are mistakes. And when I mentioned a couple of the mistakes, it says, oh, that's just the narrative. But you're talking about the name of God. Muhammad's the prophet, right? He's the prophet of God, right? Prophet of God does not make mistakes. You can't make mistakes. You say, oh, but it's only the narrative. It's only the story. Well, I care, it's only the story. If you say something that egregious, there's a major contradiction or a number of contradictions that don't make any sense and there are no answers. Well, guess what? That means not true. And if it's not true, why would I tell somebody to believe it? Why would I tell a non-Jew to go to Islam light? You say, oh, you're an Islamophobe. No, I'm a Christianophobe. I'm a Hinduophobe. I'm a pigophobe. All these things. I don't believe they're true. The religions are false. If the religions are false, why would I ever tell anyone to do it? They're false. So why would somebody say, oh, I want to compare Eastern religion. I want to compare Eastern religion over here and try and fit it into Kabbalah and see where they differ or where they're. Why would I do that? First of all, we came before Eastern religions. We came first. People think reincarnation is a non-Jewish concept. Not true. Came from us. We came first. Yeah. They say all kinds of things. Doesn't mean it's true. Even about reincarnation. I don't care if they believe in it or not. Not going to be the same as we do. So why would I try and put that into Torah? Why would I even care? I can say, well, it's interesting. I don't know. If I believe it's a false religion, then what do I care what they have to say? Doesn't matter what they say. It's a waste of time even thinking about it. So now what? I'm gonna say, okay, compare and contrast these different, these different religions and try and fit it in over here. Maybe some Kabbalistic idea, maybe they hold the same. So what? Maybe they hold by one thing, two things, maybe five things they think are the same. Okay. What does that have to do with anything? That enhances Judaism. You want to be a Jew, be a Jew. You want to go into shamans and all this other stuff, and see where it all fits in Eastern religion, try and fit it into Kabbalah. I don't know. You can do that. I think it's a waste of time. Total waste of time. You want to believe in Judaism is one thing. You want to believe in these other things? Okay. Either one is true and the other's not. Both can't be true. Now, again, there are certain things in other religions that may be true because there's a little bit of truth in everything, but that's not the point. The whole thing can't be true. And if God forbid you found a flaw in Judaism, same thing. Then we wouldn't be, no one would be listening over here. I wouldn't be keeping anything right now. If it wasn't true, God forbid. If it's proven false, it's false. No, but I want to compare and I want to. It's false. Why would I bother? The person says, well, when you talk about God, it's not so exciting. Well, who says I need to speak about Kabbalah to be exciting? There are many things you can talk about in Torah that's exciting. They may not think so. That's their problem. Just because it's not Kabbalistic and it's not, so deep. I mean, we could get very deep, but, some people may need that. Okay, but they need the basics also. Because people don't think there's depth to Torah. It's one of the things I explained before, that, I was on South America, and I spoke about Passover for 2 hours to all these people that became interested in Judaism through a Kabbalah center. And I spoke about a lot of different things. And in the end, I told them, by the way, I just wanted to show you tonight how deep the Torah is without speaking about anything about Kabbalah. And I went on. I spoke about Midrashim, depth, a lot of things without Kabbalah. A lot of deep things you can speak about. They may think, oh, it's not deep enough. It's not whatever. You know what they say? You can't run before you learn how to crawl. You can't study calculus without algebra or trig. Can't do it. So people want to jump to the highest levels and aren't ready. You need the basics. If you don't know the basics, I understand people, people think it's all inspiring, it's esoteric, it's, you feel like you're changing worlds. That's beautiful. How much do they really understand? Not very much. Like someone told me they're finishing their degree to be a Reconstructionist rabbi, whatever that is. And they were at Hebrew University and they were taking a course in Kabbalah. So I joked, I said, oh, you're learning about the subject? Like by the conservative movement, they never learned the subject because no one knows how to learn it. So they learn about it. So I said, oh, you learn about this? No, I'm learning about the spiritual world and this and that. And the person said, well, if I'm going to learn, if I'm going to be an Apikoros, I'm going to be a heretic. At least I should know what I'm being a heretic about. So he said, what's your answer to that? So I said, very simple. I said, Madonna of all people, she claims to learn Kabbalah. Now I guarantee Madonna doesn't know the Aleph. She couldn't tell me an Aleph from a Beis or a Gimel. I'm pretty confident. So I said, if she can learn Kabbalah, you can also learn Kabbalah. I said, if she doesn't know the Aleph Beis and she learns Kabbalah, you can also learn Kabbalah. The person thought I was joking. He's like, oh, it's very funny. I go, but that wasn't a joke. I said, have you ever finished a tractate of Talmud from beginning to end? No. Have you learned Chumash in depth? You learned the Torah in depth? No. Have you learned Musar? Jewish philosophy? No. So I beg to differ. You may be an Apikoros. You may be a heretic. You're just a nebuch. You just don't know anything. So you're a heretic anyway. You'd be a heretic anyway, even if you grew up as a potato farmer in Idaho. You're a heretic. You think you know something. You don't. And this person said, well, do you think, you wanted to give over to Reform Jews and this and that. Do you think I'm going to be successful? I said, no. He said, why not? I said, because you don't have the knowledge. You want to give over, you have to have knowledge. What knowledge you really have about Judaism? I mean, really, what knowledge you have? I mean, I knocked this person down because A, they deserve to be knocked down, but B, I wanted to show that they didn't have so much knowledge as they thought. What, you're gonna tell me you're learning Kabbalah when you've never really studied? You've never really learned properly? I'm not gonna take too much respect for that. You have a PhD in mythology, okay? It doesn't mean anything. Torah doesn't mean anything. Somebody asks, does the Rambam say the person holds by the Noahide laws, but not with the intention of keeping it because God said so, that it doesn't count? Yes, he did. Got to speak about that in my Noahide class. The Rambam states clear in the Laws of Kings, I think chapter 9, says over there that a non-Jew, in order to keep the Noahide laws, has to believe God gave the Torah to the Jewish people and passed it down to Moshe Rabbeinu. It's not enough just to believe in the laws, right? According to the Rambam, that's what you got to believe. You got to believe. And if you don't believe that, yeah, it doesn't count. We're going to speak about that in my Noah class. We're going to speak about that. Because how many people are holding by that today? I don't know. They have to know. They have to know they're keeping the Noahide laws for that reason. Because God said so. Because God passed it down to Moshe. That's definitely true. Chapter 9. Chapter 9, Book of Kings. This person thinks that Ishmael was sacrificed by Abraham. Yeah, because if you're a Muslim, right, and you believe in these other things, okay. So our book makes them look bad. True. The Torah does make them look bad. So they change the story. That's not inconceivable. They do it all the time. Christianity does it. Islam does it. They change the story to fit their outlook. Because who's their great person is Ishmael. According to us, it doesn't look so good. Even if he repents at the end of his life, still it doesn't look so good. So I understand they have an agenda. Makes perfect sense. Someone had a question before. Someone here mentions that the prophet Isaiah predicted the destruction of Syria and Mesopotamia. Okay. According to the Jewish eschatological view, I don't know what that means, but okay. And the Christian holy text claims destruction of Syria and Mesopotamia. Yeah, so what? So maybe they both claim the same thing. It's not a contradiction. Why would I think that's a contradiction? You have to understand, the Christians came after us. They came after us. So if they came hundreds of years later, when JC supposedly came, he's riding on the coattails of us. So even if they say the same thing, and they say in his name, he claimed that. Where do you think he got it from? There are plenty of things he says there that came from us. So we both say the same thing. We got it from them? I don't think so. Most likely, he got it from us. So it's not a contradiction. We can both say the same thing. He's claiming, say, from God. We're claiming, okay. It's not a contradiction. I don't see why it would be a contradiction. Someone asked, do you think we're close to identifying the truth to Chelus? No. That was easy. Some people think, maybe, it's a minority. There are more people doing it, but it is a minority opinion that the Tachelus, the red thread, the blue thread that you'll see some people wearing on their towels or their tzitzis, that they claim with all kinds of different proofs, it's the same Tachelus as before. So I'm going to tell you what one of the Torah giants of this generation, Moiva Rebbe, Harav Gaon Moshe Sternbach, said many, many times, and he should be well. Right? What has he said many times? And he hasn't changed his mind. I can tell you that. He said anything we have a doubt on, that we don't have a clear-cut tradition, we don't do it. Period. We don't do it. Now you tell me, if a person put it on their tzitzis and it's not the right thing, the tzitzis are kosher. Okay. So you're not losing anything. It doesn't nullify the mitzvah. On the other hand, if I do wear it and it is the right thing, then I get the mitzvah. So what am I losing out? Right? Why would I lose out if I don't do it? So what's the answer? The answer is, as my Rebbe would say, it doesn't matter. Even if you get the mitzvah of doing it, right, if it's the right thing, but you don't lose anything, it doesn't matter. You know why it doesn't matter? Because we don't have a clear-cut tradition. Now, some will say that the Tchelos we have today is the right one. And we're going back to it. It's not clear-cut. There are many, many strong proofs against it. But my Rebbe says in either case, we have a doubt over here. There's a major doubt. If there's a major doubt, guess what? That means we don't have a tradition on it. If we don't have a tradition on it, we don't do it. And he's not the only one that holds it. The vast majority of rabbinical authorities today hold that's the case. You don't have a If you don't have a tradition, you don't do it. Anything we don't have a clear-cut tradition, we don't do. So that's a good example. Do I think we're coming close to it? No. Why do I say no? Because when the Messiah comes, then he'll bring it back. But it's not, people can wear it. They want to wear it. All right, let them wear it. But again, we don't have a clear-cut tradition. Are many rabbis even thinking about bringing it back? Again, the vast majority of rabbis today don't do it for this reason. There are a number of people that think it's the real thing and they tell people they should wear it. Okay. But I'm telling you, the vast majority, when I say vast majority, I mean the vast majority. I would think 95% or more do not hold that this is the right thing. So now you're going to ask, you think it's going to come back? No. Why isn't it going to come back? That's for the Messiah to do. Because it's not clear cut. We don't have clear cut answers. So it's not going to come back. There won't be a consensus. There'll never be a consensus. That's what I would answer to that. Somebody asks, do JITs, Jews in training, observe your side for the non-Jewish parents? They can. I mean, you're not going to do the same thing as a Jew would do. I mean, even if you're Jewish, you want to light a candle, you can. I mean, there are no prayers to say. You want to say Tehillim, you want to say Psalms, you can. But there's no mourner's prayer for a non-Jew. Right? There are no mourning customs for a non-Jew. If a person, again, if a person wanted to, in theory, yeah, could they sit a couple of days, and mourn? I'm not saying they can't mourn, but there aren't mourning customs like we do. That's what I would say. Someone asks, is the evil inclination capable of causing suicide? It's a pretty loaded question. Person has to be, a person, I would say, the person thinking of suicide, yeah, they're suffering tremendously. Probably gone through trauma. Or even if they haven't gone through trauma, there certainly could be other, mental health issues going on. Could it be just the case of evil inclination? I don't think so. I don't think it's just, there has to be other things going on. I don't think it's just the evil inclination. Most people, I do know someone, I know a few people that, constantly think about that. It's not healthy. And this is not part of the evil inclination. There are other issues involved. The evil inclination, all it does is just make it stronger. If a person's healthy mentally, let's say better. Person is strong, mental health. There's nothing wrong with them, per se. Why would a person think about suicide? So you say, well, maybe a person had a bad day, and then it snowballs, and evil inclination gets you to think all kinds of things. Is it going to get that bad where a person says, no, I'm just going to end it? They may feel like that. Sometimes we feel like we're under so much pressure, like, okay, but they're not really that serious, about doing it. So yeah, could it be from the evil inclination? It could be a number of factors. Thinking about it, saying it doesn't really mean a whole lot. Right? The reason is, again, a person could be under a lot of pressure. That, let's say, God forbid, a person's got a terminal illness. They're in a lot of pain, so to speak. They could say, let me just end it. That I could understand because they don't want to live anymore. But a normal, healthy person, could there be sometimes the person says, like, what do I need this for? Let me just end it. But that's not a rational thought. Because if they got family, they got good people around them, again, without any other extraneous issues, in theory, they could think such a thought, here and there. It's like, oh, I got this, I got that, I feel like the world's caving in. So maybe, Maybe it's just better to end it. But, that thought really goes out the window. That's not an option, right? Not really an option. So if a person harps on it and a person thinks about, could it be the evil inclination? I think there's something else going on. I think there's something else going on. If someone's having these thoughts constantly. If a person had a thought here, there, it's not, I'm not going to say it's abnormal. I mean, people have bad days. People can have really bad days without going through trauma. Because have a lot of things go wrong. And the person say, what do I need this for? What in the world do I need this for? But they're just, they may think it. They may even say it, but it's not what they mean. All they mean is, I'm going through a hard time. I'm going through a hard time and it's just an easy way out. So sort of, but they don't really mean it. But if someone's constantly thinking about it, whatever, then there's something else going on. A lot of people, last number of days, 3 people OD'd in one day. Yeah, it's pretty tragic. What can be done? They all died in rehab. I don't know. We could try and put out awareness. It's a good idea. We're all created in God's image. Someone's got to be really, really down to do it. There have to be, other things involved. Mental health issues, trauma, both combined. I mean, I see people putting up all the time, suicide awareness, all kinds of posts, putting stuff up like that. Now you can say, well, that really going to stop someone? Maybe not. But we think we're just useless. Sometimes a person can be put down enough, where they say, well, God made a mistake and put me in the world. Now that goes against many, many principles in Torah. That just means, a person got beaten down in life. But if God put a soul in a person and that soul has a message and they have a purpose in life, we all have a purpose in life. We may not always know what it is. Right? But we can get beaten down in life where a person says, nothing good, should ever come of me. I'm just here, I was just here to suffer. Well, that's a Christian idea. We're not just here to suffer. Our soul has to go through certain things, whatever it is. But I'm not going to say no matter what, because I can't say that. Because someone who's been through trauma, you can't say, well, just get over it, move on. It doesn't work like that. 100% doesn't work like that. And I mentioned the story, I think one of my Tanakh Talk videos and one of the Q&As, and that, someone was traumatized as a kid, and they're very successful in what they do. They have kids, grandkids, happily married, and they speak to someone every single morning because every day they wonder, why am I not hanging on that tree outside? Now someone who's been through therapy, continues to go through therapy, but, seemingly he's got over a lot of it. Doesn't mean it disappears. Doesn't mean it goes away forever. Right? But the person's in a much better place. But he needs that, he needs that confidence. He needs that, to speak to someone every single day. Because still in their mind, what are they thinking? I should be on that tree hanging. That means the trauma is still there. It means it didn't disappear. They have ways to deal with it. They have ways to overcome it. To be successful in life. Not going to be easy, I don't think, by any stretch. Right? But at the same time, it's not a good answer, but, it doesn't fully disappear. And, people struggle in life. A little story, I heard an interview last year of a teenage girl, an Orthodox teenage girl that, OD'd. And And she wasn't sexually abused, but she had a very hard time in school. And it wasn't accepted and got rejected. And that's what it led to. That's essentially what it led to. And then she OD'd. They had her in rehabs and this and that and whatever. She ended up OD'ing. But it was a tremendous sense of rejection. And like being spit out, the parents did everything they could, gave her everything she needed. Didn't help. It didn't help. So, yeah, it's a real thing, even in the Orthodox community. Even though the statistics are probably 98% of Jewish teenagers, even Orthodox Jewish teenagers that OD were sexually abused, probably the highest percentage. There could be others that were, got rejected from schools, other things. These are real things. So people say, but the system has to change. There's only so much you can do with the system. A person has to try and fit in somewhere. They get rejected one school, another school. Nobody wants to take them. They feel like a failure. It's hard. Pressure gets to them. They want to fit in, but they can't, or they can't learn. They have learning disabilities, other things. Terrific. But it's very pressurized. It's a very pressurized world, especially in the Orthodox community. So, it can become, again, it can come to rejection, mental health issues, other things. But you're right. Every soul is precious. People don't realize. They just live through life trying to numb themselves. Because the reality is this world's a very hard place to live. There's just a lot of terrible things that go on. It's very hard to always be upbeat. It is. Even if you are the energized bunny. It's hard. Because you hear all kinds of things that are hard to hear. And that there are things that should not be. Should not happen. It's tragic. People have to realize also that, we don't live in a perfect world. We messed it up. But it doesn't mean that someone's born in this world and they have no purpose at all. And they're just here to be rejected. They're just here to be put down. They're just here to be bullied. They're not worth anything. Not true. Everybody has value. Non-Jews have value. Any non-Jews out there. They also have value because we're creating God's image. Life is precious. But the thing is, you have to know how to live it. See, we live in a world that, people have very, very low self-esteem. Very, very low self-esteem. The tissue generation. People get rejected. People have it hard. Not saying they don't. Some more, some less. Question is what we do with it. How we react to it. You can say, but it's hard being put down all the time. I understand. Gone through it myself. In different ways. Very hard. But the person has to have self-worth. The person has to feel they're doing for others. They're giving to others. Giving to themselves. We got to, cut ourselves a little bit of slack. Because we're not perfect. By any stretch. We do make mistakes. I have to listen to what people think about me. What am I running for election? I have to worry about that. Forget it. If I had to worry about what family, friends, others would say, I wouldn't be where I am today. There's a lot of peer pressure. It's tragic. People get destroyed by it. But you got to, a person got to be strong. And a person thinks, I'm going to call a spade here. If a person really thinks they have it difficult in this world, I don't care what they've gone through. I don't care what trauma they've gone through. I want you to open up a book of Tehillim, a book of Psalms, and just read the words in whatever language you understand. If you think you had it harder than King David, read the book. Read, just keep reading. Read the stories what happened to Abraham. Think he had it easy? He didn't have it easy. Not at all. Again, I'm not comparing here. What I'm pointing out is a lot of people have it hard. I'm not going to put this under the rug. We all have it hard. Some have it more difficult. Some people have gone through more trauma or a trauma, whatever. It's all true. I'm not saying, well, just push it aside and move on and Torah's going to overcome. It's not true. It's gonna take therapy. It's gonna take medicine. It may take both. Torah outlook certainly going to help, right? But at the end of the day, we have self-respect. We have dignity. We have things we want to do. We want to accomplish. We want to be out there helping others, even if we can't necessarily, help our own families. So I chose I have a purpose. Chose I'm here for a reason. Oh, we might get beaten down in life, yeah. And some people might get more slaughtered than others, okay? Can certainly happen. And people get bullied and all kinds of things that are terrible. I agree. So a person needs proper help to get over that. Torah alone is not going to help in general. But the person, person has to think also, I'm created in God's image. I have the ability to become something in Torah, to be close to God, to do what I need to do. That means easy. Doesn't mean it's going to be a free pass over here. Not at all. We're here to toil. We're not saying people don't struggle. People don't go through difficult things. But they let it beat them down. And then they don't function. And that's not what God wants. That's what the evil inclination wants. So, regardless of what a person's gone through, in general over here, I got to find somehow to have a reason to get up in the morning and not think I should be hanging on a tree. And a person needs help with that. Yeah, you have to get proper help. But we're created in God's image. There's so much to live for. You got to say, so, during COVID, suicides were up. I can understand. People lost their business, lost everything. Can't provide. Stuck at home. I mean, I don't think that's the reason to commit suicide if you're stuck at home with all those other things going on. But, life can be very depressing. Very, very depressing. And we can think, why should I get up? It's going to be the same. It's not going to be different. What do I have to get up for? Because you're creating God's image. That's why I have to get up. You're creating God's image. It's another day in Avodas Hashem. It's another day to serve Him. But you say, this person said this person. Okay. So other people say things. You have to believe what they say. You have to take it to heart. Right? Can't be too oversensitive. And you can't believe the headlines. If the person doesn't have any self-esteem, you're a dish rag. It's unfortunate. Because we can get beaten down enough. Again, I always say, if I'm at the top of my game and I think, look what I'm doing this and that, and I learn blah, blah, blah. I have people I can talk to that will put me in my place in 3 seconds. I need that like I need a hole in it. Who wants to be hit? Who wants to keep feeling bad? No one wants that. Yeah, but I'm in pain. Okay, so we got to figure out how to deal with the pain. But if God created you in His image, nobody's superfluous over here. Right? That doesn't matter what happened to a person in general. A person can rebuild because that's what God wants. He wants us to fight. He wants us to, emulate Him, to go in His ways. Going in His ways does not mean everything's going to be hunky-dory and everything's going to be easy. Far from that. Very far from that. But am I going to have a heck of a lot more meaning in life when I get out of, when I get out of bed and I'm awake? 100%. It's a whole different thing. Someone has dabbled in witchcraft, opened the door. It's caused destruction of the person. Yeah, it could kill them. Literally. Playing with spiritual forces, even if God allows us to do that, you're playing with fire. Right? Not something to be played with. Could it lead to homosexuality? I don't know if it could lead to that. I think it's got its own issues, but I don't necessarily think it's caused by witchcraft. And a lot of people who go that route, they're miserable. Always trying to prove themselves, this, that, they're miserable. Right? That would go to show, even if a person says, I have an affinity towards that, it's in my bones, it's what I feel, all this. At the end of the day, why are they miserable? Why are most of them miserable? Because it's not normal. I hate to not be politically correct. The Torah says it's not normal. The Torah says cleave to your wife, not to your same sex. Right? Torah is against it. And if everyone would act on it, you wouldn't have a population left. So it's abnormal. There's something not normal there. Can it be fixed? It can be, yeah. There are psychologists that can help people. Again, does witchcraft directly relate to that? I don't think so. But witchcraft, sorcery, these type of things, person taps in, yeah, it could kill you. Literally. It's not something you want to mess with. In general. Let me see any other questions here. What's the word on the red heifer? We don't have a red heifer today. The last one, I don't know how long it's, how long, is it still around? It's still, could be used. Don't know. Everything we take care of in the right time. Right? It's, a lot of these things, I would say, yeah, it's, interesting. They found a cow totally red and all that. Okay. We're in the Messianic era. Anything can happen. Right? We're very close to the Messiah coming. I don't think there's any question. So I would say, okay, like what's up with that? I don't know. I don't know what's up with that. To me, it doesn't really matter. Because when the Messiah comes, it'll be fine. God will take care of it. If it's ready right now, good. Who's to say, it's not going to get worked. It's not going to get some sort of blemish. I have to produce another one. Okay. I just want to remind people, there are a lot of interesting things out there that have no relevance to our lives. One of them is about the Messiah in general. The Rambam says we shouldn't try and figure it out. There are contradictions in the verses, in the prophets and the writings. And if you try and figure out, you make a mistake. You say, oh, Messiah's not going to come anyway, God forbid, and that's it. Former Christians, that's, it's one of their favorite topics. So how's the Messiah going to come? A lot of different ways. A lot of potential different ways. What's, how do we know? We don't. Nobody knows. It's an interesting thing. I'm not saying don't learn Tanakh. A lot of very rich things in Tanakh. But other things are irrelevant. You got one opinion says like this, another opinion says like that. Nobody knows. It's a lot of speculation. Okay. So is that something I should worry about? No. I mean, it's an interesting thing. I'm not going to say not. Sometimes I think people just get carried away with certain things. Like, oh, what about this? What about that? What about it? What does it have to do with anything? What does it have to do with my learning today? If you're learning about it, it's one thing. Going through the scriptures, you're going through prophets, the writings, very good. You want to get a little bit of clarity, fine. But if it has nothing to do with your normal learning, then okay, it's an interesting question. What's going to be? I don't know. Nobody knows. And if nobody knows, then what am I worrying about it for? So you say, I'm not saying, well, don't learn about it. So learn about it. You want to go through the sources, okay. But, on an everyday basis, plenty of what to learn. There's plenty of what to learn. I have to worry about certain things. I don't know. Doesn't really have so much relevance. Could be this way, could be that way, could be the other way. Okay? You can have 6, 7 different opinions. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how it's going to end up. Doesn't matter. We just want to survive it. It's interesting talk. I get it. A lot of people have dealt with it over the years. Okay. On an everyday basis, we got to stay focused. When a person learns, you want to stay focused and have like a set goal of what I want to learn and how much I want to learn and all that. We have to have set goals because a lot of things are haphazard. Want a little bit of this and maybe a little bit of that and something else. When it comes to conversion, you got to be very focused. Laws of blessings, kashrus, Shabbos, all the holidays, 13 principles of faith, prayer. Like, you got to stay focused. Doesn't mean you can't learn other things also. Right? But again, you want to learn a certain amount. You want to stay focused on what you're learning. That's what I would say. Sonia points out, right? We got to be concerned what we do, not when Messiah is going to come. Messiah is going to come when he comes. Now we have to do our bit and try and be the best we can be, and hopefully, bring in the redemption. True. Other than that, tomorrow's another day. Right? Today's another day. Tomorrow's another day. Then you have Thursday. Then you have Friday. You got Shabbos. And, we think in the back of our mind, yeah, we want the Messiah to come and all that, but we have to live in this world. And it's very easy to get distracted. Very, very easy. Very easy to get distracted. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to sign out. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me at Michael Chaim Kaufman on Facebook or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wish everyone a good beginning.